So I'd gone to LA for the first time in my life. And a day later, I was on the set of Poltergeist and I met Spielberg. And I just wanted to talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I got an audition the next day uh, to read with him. And that's what you see on tape.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Up and Adam Show. My name is Adam Lupus, and thank you all for joining me once again. We got a spectacular interview for all you guys today, and I'm pleased to welcome my next guest, someone I've looked up to ever since I was a kid, love all of his movies, and you definitely recognize him in E.T. and a lot of Mike Flanagan's movies. He is the recipient of a Saturn Award, a Young Artist Award, and he's a two-time Golden Globe nominee. Please welcome Henry Thomas. How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for having me on, Adam.
Hey, no problem. It's such a pleasure. It's an honor to just be speaking with you. Like I said, I love all of your amazing work. And actually it's crazy. I know ET just actually celebrated the 40th anniversary last year. So congratulations with that first off. Um I was actually watching your audition on YouTube a couple weeks ago actually. And as a kid, the way you just did that audition was like you were acting like an actor that was been in the business for over 40 years. It was so professional, so real. And when Spielberg says at the end, "Okay, kid, you got the job," that was just so iconic.
Well, I'm afraid I have to, son.
Can't take him away, he's mine!
But it's not my choice. The president asked me to come here and get him.
I don't care what the president says, he's my best friend! And you can't take him away!
I'd make your whole life, huh? And then he'd be your friend forever. And I wouldn't take him away. Okay, Elliott.
Okay, kid, you got the job.
What was that whole audition process like for you?
Well, it was pretty brief, there wasn't a lot of lead up to it on my end. As far as I was concerned, I kind of found out maybe a couple of weeks before I was going to Los Angeles because I had done a film called Raggedy Man for Universal Studios, and that was my first film. So, the only actors that I had worked with were very serious actors, and I approached everything the way that I had learned from them. So, Sissy Spacek and Sam Shepard and Eric Roberts and William Sanderson and I mean these guys were the people that I kind of learned learned everything from in the beginning. And I was going out to LA to do some looping on my film Raggedy Man. And so Universal piggybacked the audition with Spielberg onto that trip. So I'd gone to LA for the first time in my life. And a day later, I was on the set of Poltergeist and I met Spielberg. And I just wanted to talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I got an audition the next day uh, to read with him. And that's what you see on tape.
That was so awesome. Yeah. Well, obviously, Raiders of the Lost Ark is such a classic movie. Spielberg, what I love about him and what he does with his actors, especially the child stars, is that he treats them all very professional. He treats them like they're adults. Like he really uplifts them and really, I think, elevates their whole career going forward. You notice that everybody who works with Spielberg goes on to do such amazing things. You know what I mean? It's actually crazy. Ki Kwan, who actually was in Temple of Doom, he just won his Oscar
Right.
yesterday. So it's funny how things work out in life. You know what I mean?
It's amazing, I mean, you know, it's it's kind of a long it's a long con to stay in Hollywood. Um, you have to be willing to kind of stick around. Uh, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. It's all up in the air. It's a very random lottery sort of a game.
Absolutely.
But I think that there are exceptions to the rule in everything, and Hollywood is no exception.
Henry Thomas is such a beloved actor and child star, and he experienced significant success and attention from fans throughout his whole life. But throughout the years, he's been more vocal about the difficulties that come with that level of fame. I was curious to know, how was he able to navigate these challenges? And I also want to know if he felt that his decision to step away from Hollywood and live on a farm in Oregon was related to these experiences.
Not exactly. I mean, I've always wanted to have a farm. I mean, that was how I grew up before, well, even after I got involved in acting, I was still on the farm until I was like 24. So, yeah, I wanted that for my kids. That was more of a reaction to being a parent than anything else. But I was tired of being in LA, so I left LA.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I'm sure like the lifestyle you have now I'm sure where you are, it's much more relaxed, simple. It's much more peaceful, probably, because LA is always go, 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 right? So it's a whole different lifestyle. And going back to your acting stuff, so you've worked with a lot of child actors in your recent work as well. And I know that you've talked about sometimes like working with child actors could add some complications to the whole filming process, but your experiences working with child actors on The Haunting of Hill House couldn't have been more enjoyable for you. And there's actually a child actress that I had on my show, Violet McGraw, who you acted alongside
Yeah,
in that show, who's phenomenal, by the way. And actually,
great.
there's actually a quote I want to read that you said. It was really, really nice, actually. You said, "You want the kids to be good. After the first couple of days, I realized we don't have anything to worry about there. These kids always knew their lines. They knew the scenes as well as I did, or better, and they would do things that would amaze you. It was a real pleasure to see that work ethic. It was really nice." Hearing that is just so nice, because I love how, as a grown up, you recognize these child stars for their hard work and dedication. And I feel like someone like Violet McGraw and many other child actors really do put the work in, I feel like. And what was it that you felt sold you on her? What was that? What was the moment for you that really was like, this is it, like she's amazing?
Well, we had a scene together uh, that was very important to the story, and I can't remember which episode it's in, but it's Haunting of Hill House, and basically, I've come back from the house. I'm all bloodied, and Violet's character, Nell, is sitting outside, and we're having a conversation. And reading the script, I thought, "Oh wow, this is a tough scene for this young actress, because she's the youngest of the cast, and I was worried because it was kind of a complicated scene, and I hadn't really worked with her very much at that point. So I thought, oh, this might take a while, um, but it didn't at all. Of course, like Violet was so spot on, and she knew the scene backwards and forwards, and uh, it was really amazing, and it my esteem of all the kids in the cast really just kept growing exponentially with every scene that we did together, because uh, they were really on it, and I wasn't that on it. As a kid, I was totally ill prepared compared to them,
Yeah, but it's funny you say
and
that, because
still am pretty much ill prepared.
no, but actually, well, when I'm watching you as a 10-year-old being like ET, for example, it's like I mentioned, it's like you've been in the business for so long doing it. Like it's so natural for you, right?
That's my whole school of thought about it. You know, it it's it should be mimicking something natural. Um, I mean, I think there's a place for heightened performances and over the top things, and that's great. But really, for anything to have any resonance with people emotionally, it has to look real to them, and it has to be visceral. And uh, you can't achieve any kind of visceral reaction with an outlandish performance other than um, a cathartic response, which doesn't really resonate.
I don't know if you all know this, but Henry Thomas played the iconic character of Jack Torrance in Doctor Sleep. It's hard to tell with the wig and the makeup, but his performance was praised for his ability to embody the character without doing a Jack Nicholson impersonation, which is very important. So I was curious, how was he able to approach taking on such an iconic character? Let's find out.
Well, first of all, you approach it by the character and not by the previous performance of the iconic performance done by the iconic actor in the role, right? You leave that alone because that's a special thing and you respect it, and you don't want to go anywhere near that, right? So that's the first approach. The second approach is you have to trust the filmmaker to also be respectful and want to achieve something of a character rather than an impersonation, right? Because we don't do impersonations as a rule. There's no honor in that, really. So I think that the goal was just to embody the spirit of the character and have a look that ties the two together. And that was mostly that was 90% of the character, I would say, was my wig. But and that was 90% of what we talked about going into it was my hair. So yeah, it was the most work I've done for one day of work in my whole career.
That's so awesome, man. Well, I gotta ask you, when you're doing a character like that where you have to be like in makeup and a wig and stuff like that, do you find that it actually helps you get into character more?
Yeah, no, it certainly casts an illusion, right? That you can kind of step into that makes things a little bit easier. At least it makes the audience's perception of things a little bit more cohesive, right? You don't have to worry about them putting that together. Like it's going to be pretty clear. Mm-hmm. So that's one less thing to worry about in that sense. But as far as the performance goes, you have to work with those conditions and make it look real, and but with those conditions, I mean the affliction of prosthetics and wigs and all of that crap on your face, which is really prohibitive, but or restrictive anyway. But other than that, it's pretty fun.
It looks like a lot of fun. I would love to play a role like that one day, just to be in a bunch of, makeup or, wearing wigs. I feel like you become, for example, you look at like Heath Ledger when he's like the Joker, or you look at other people
right.
playing these roles where they're in. I feel like when you look in the mirror and you see all that stuff on you, it's like you actually believe you are that person. That's why I feel like it's movie magic.
It's dangerous though, because those characters have like fans, so those fans expect you to know all of the nuances of that character, and if you don't, it's very disappointing to them. So you have to do your fair bit of research, you know.
As a horror movie fan, it's so cool to see this genre gaining so much popularity in recent years. You have movies like Megan that feature Violet McGraw, which Henry Thomas worked with, and so many others. And Henry Thomas actually worked with the director Mike Flanagan on several projects that all pertain in the horror movie genre. I was curious to know what draws Henry to this genre specifically and why he thinks this genre continues to grow to bigger audiences today.
Well, you know, for me, I'm not really drawn to the genre as a fan. I don't seek it out. I've seen some great horror films, but you know, I don't really gravitate towards it as an audience member. Uh, but I understand the fans and the fans' loyalty to the genre, and it's really cool. It's its own animal, you know. But I think the popularity of the films, uh, it's largely been the fans' responsibility, and the fans, you know, the fans' achievement of making the genre popular by going and seeing the films or buying the films. They've made it a lucrative genre for filmmakers. So production and financier people, they're very interested in horror scripts because they can produce them at low budgets usually, uh, and almost always turn a profit because of the fan base. Um, so, I mean, it is really kind of a self-perpetuating thing. Like as long as there are fans, there will be horror films. It's a way for young filmmakers to break into business in the same way that uh, you know, independent films in New York in the early 90s were a way for filmmakers to break into the business. You know, uh, it's the next entry level film, but it's a whole genre to itself, a commercial genre.
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of crazy how, because I do agree with you. It's like you could do these horror films on low budgets, but it amazes me because there's so much prosthetics, makeup, like all the stuff that goes into it. You think to yourself, like, how can this be low budget? But you also, it's funny. Like nowadays, anything could be a horror movie. I'm not sure if you've heard about these horror movies now. There's like a Winnie the Pooh horror movie that just
Yeah,
there's a Grinch one that came out. It's like I feel
right.
like people are really just kind of latching on to the popularity of horror movies now and just kind of making whatever the hell they want now. But it seems to be kind of working, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like horror's become sort of like what the Western became like in the mid '60s to late '60s, early '70s. You know, it's kind of like it's 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 played out, but now it's being spun out. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. You know, that's why
Oh,
we have the Pooh horror.
there you go. There you go, man. And
You can't put a guy in a shed with a machete anymore.
no, I know. Yeah, it's not. I know. Like, I mean, I love the old classic ones, like like Freddy Krueger, or Jason, or Michael Myers and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like I like the more psychological horror stuff. Again, the stuff you've been in are not your cheesy slasher things, right? The horror stuff you've been in,
Yeah,
more realistic.
Mike
People
Mike
can actually
Flanagan
relate to.
Mike Flanagan really you know, kind of turns things on its head, really, basically, with with a lot of these stories and his take on things. So that's been kind of fun. You know, he's an interesting writer, and his ideas, his concepts are really cool. And working with him, you know, he knows the material backwards and forwards, so he's able to really get what he needs. And I trust him very much when I'm working with him that, you know, he's getting good performances. And yeah, it's great. And he's kind of in tune with what audiences want. in a lot of ways, which I find interesting.
Henry Thomas has had the career of a lifetime. It spanned 40 years, and to this day, he's still doing so many amazing projects. I asked him what advice he would give to aspiring actors and filmmakers who are just starting out, and what does he think is the most important quality for success in this industry?
Oh, you know, after 42 years in the business, I'm still figuring it out because it's always changing. It's always evolving. So I guess the most important thing is to be adaptable and to kind of understand that, you know, it's all kind of liquid and plastic and changing always, right? And so it's a hard business to be in long term with any kind of security if you don't diversify. So I would say to young people, you know, especially these days, I think it's important that you write your own material, you have something that, or several things uh, ready to go in the hopper. Um, you know, you have your portfolio well fleshed out on all on all sides, so that you know you're adaptable and you can change with the industry because the industry is fickle and the public tastes are fickle. So you have to roll with both of those things.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Henry. I had a blast chatting with you. I feel like you're someone I could talk to for hours. You're just so like easygoing and open and honest. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Adam, and I'd love to talk with you more. I'm just sitting out here watching the rain.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And listen, like I said, I have you on Instagram. Maybe we'll touch base and hopefully we can reconnect when your next project comes out and we can chat more about it.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.